p.m., the Peekskill Post reported a story on the suspension.
Okay.
Any email that you guys are talking about was at 3:29.
Are you saying that you did not release that information?
I did not release that information.
Then I'm going to ask you to file a complaint with the police department because the servers say that it did happen from you. And you should file a complaint because somebody is tampering.
Excuse me.
Somebody's tampering. No,
excuse me.
No.
Excuse me, I'm not finished.
That's on trial.
No, I have not finished your
It
trial.
came from your email to Mike Moore.
Excuse me, the story in the Post was out at 2:44.
I don't know that.
I can tell you that, and I confirmed it with Brian. He told me his post was out at 2:44. The email that you sent me that said that there was an email from my phone came at 3:29 on the same day. That's more than 45 minutes.
Was 3:29?
Whatever she said, that was more than 45 minutes
I don't know.
after. I'm telling you.
Okay, well,
I'm telling
you're
you.
saying it doesn't.
Well, no, because you put out an ad on your blog that Vivian did this or
I
you
didn't
didn't
put
say
anything out.
your blog said that I released this information and you had my picture and Mike's
I
picture
didn't
and
put
all this.
anything out. I don't have a blog.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
I can tell you it's your blog and I can show you how we can show you.
Well, you can show
Go,
I
Vivian.
don't have a blog.
But the point is, the smoke screen here is that you're saying that I put information out. I did not put information out. And she had this email prior to me even knowing that she had email. You said that. I didn't even think about it because I didn't think that I had sent anything, like I said. So when the mayor gets the information and then the resident can come to the podium and tell us this information before anybody else in here knows, there's an issue.
Well, like I said, when I had said at the Common Council, or at the Committee of the Whole meeting, prior to that, I did advise the council that I had the information. Nobody asked me. And again, I didn't feel that it was necessary for me to give that information unless it was solicited by me, which then it was. The only information that I gave the mayor was that there was an email that was sent to Mike Morey's email. That's all that I said. You asked me to provide you with what information I had, and that was
I told
obtained.
you. I said, was it Vivian? And you said
You
yes.
did.
Because I heard it from someone else. And you were not the only one that had that information. The city manager had it. I heard it from
City
another
manager, you
council.
gave that to someone else?
So let me just tell you something. But the bottom line is that if the city server is showing,
The city manager just said that he did not have that information.
she didn't tell me. I said to her, was it Vivian?
The mayor
Because I
asked me, was
already
it
told.
Vivian? And then he asked me who the email was sent to, and that's when I advised him. Now, in hindsight, should I have come downstairs and written an email to the entire council and advised of the mayor's inquiry and my response? Yes, but again, I didn't feel that necessary because I would have rather had told you directly first, but instead I got put into the middle of this political game by who did I tell and who didn't I tell. So that is not a place that I would like to be when I'm simply...
I asked her to confirm what I had heard outside of the city already.
Well, listen,
So it was out there already.
the bottom line here is who leaked the email? Who sent the email out? What did the server say?
I have from the administrator who checked, it's an outside source, that there was an email from Vivian McKenzie to M. Morey, forward Joe Minnerly. I asked to get
What
the
time is it?
content. It's sent 1/22/2016 at 3:29.
Thank you very much.
3:29 p.m. And when did the story break on the Post?
No.
2:44 p.m. And was that email confidential, city manager? Was it marked confidential?
It's not confidential.
That's another issue. I have looked into it, which is why I have not brought this up and why there is no legal action. The issue is whether or not the information in that email was confidential. It was not. I have inquired with Robert Freeman, who's the executive director on the Committee on Open Government. Just because a matter is personnel does not mean it's confidential. There is a section of the code that does state that in section 48-3B, that no city official or employee may divulge any confidential information so received. The content of that email, whether or not it was sent, is not confidential. Therefore, there's no violation of the code. Matters involving employees of a city, there's not the same range of privacy for city employees. So that information, although it was premature to have been gone to the media because we were still in the middle of the investigation. The content of it eventually would have been able to be foiled.
What time was the email from Mackenzie to M. Maury?
3:29.
And
I don't have the information as to when
we know what portal that came from, right?
what portal. All I have is from Vivian McKenzie.
I was here in City Hall.
There are 2 emails
You're
from
saying
Vivian McKenzie.
you didn't do it. You didn't
I was
throw
here.
it.
Listen, who had my phone?
Greg Matera was in my office, Councilwoman McKenzie was in my office. Everybody was having an issue with their phones because the server was changed. Greg Matera came, took her phone. We left the door open while he had her phone. There is a test email. I don't know the time, but I do know from this report, I don't know if it checked all emails that were sent from the email that day, but there was an email sent to Greg Matera, subject test, that was sent at 2:03 p.m.
Okay, but I guess
So
the
that was
bottom
an
line here, though,
hour and
is,
a half before the...
I'm sorry, but the bottom line is, it's not a confidential email. There is no laws that have been broken. This has been dramatized beyond the pale, and we need to get out of the politics and get back down to city business. So let's just do that, okay?
Well, we're not going to just
But
hold
one
on
of
for
the
a
things
second.
that I
We're
would
not
like
going
to
to expose it that fast, but go ahead and finish what you have
Well,
to
I
say.
think there's other bigger issues.
However, I would like to follow up on the issue of the break-in, and I am interested to know exactly how long it does take to determine whether there was a break-in on the date that the mayor stated that there was a break-in, when there is video in the rotunda. I have foiled the video, and that foil has been denied. I have foiled.
Denied you?
Yes, I have foiled a police
Because
report.
it was
and
under
that
an
police
investigation
report
at the time.
has been denied. At the time, is it no longer under investigation? Because I will submit another FOIL for all of the video, but I would like to know, was there an actual break-in or attempted break-in on the morning that the mayor told the press that there was a break-in?
The matter remains under investigation at this point. I can share some details of that investigation, but I'd prefer not to do that in public. I am prepared to do that in an executive session, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be most helpful because this, I'm getting questions all the time about what's going on down there. And with,
I would ask.
all of this stuff has come out in many different ways, and it has been, people have been sending this and that and the other thing. So the bigger issue is not who leaked, in my view, in my humble opinion.
It's not leaked.
It's who sent out any information, and because you certainly did that as well. But it's more about what actually happened here at City Hall and what's going on. I mean, what's going on with missing, what I'm hearing is missing.
You do recognize the right of the police department and the district attorney's office to make an investigation, do you not? Okay.
I do.
Well, then I take great exception to you including in your letter that there's a cover-up. I just want to go on record as making that perfectly clear.
That's fine.
All right, let me just say this, because you're again misquoting me in what I reported to the press. What you of all people should know, what you read in the press may not necessarily be exactly what you said.
Really?
I was in Florida at the time, and I got a call from the reporter asking me if I wanted to comment on what he called a break-in at City Hall, and I said I don't know anything about it, because at the time of that computer switchover, I was not getting city emails on my phone in Florida.
None of us were. That's why I was here.
So I called back, and I was told that the door looked, you couldn't confirm that it even was a break-in, that the door looked like it was, well, I just forgot my key tonight. I jimmied open the door with a credit card to my own office upstairs.
Oh?
Well, actually, Joe just did it for me.
I'm impressed.
So it looked like it could have happened over a period of years. If it was a break-in, it was under investigation. And I think that's all I said in the press. I didn't
Actually, what you
report.
said was Mayor Catalina said that the facilities manager, Joseph Merrily, told him the door was forced open, apparently with a screwdriver.
And that's what he told me. It looked like the door was forced open with
And
a
that's what
screwdriver.
you told the press.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I don't think I used the word break-in in that, and you used it 3 times telling that Catalina reported a
What's
break-in.
a forced open?
I don't know. It's probably the same thing as an investigation versus an inquiry. And it's by the DA's office, right? What's the difference in that? But, you know, that's a distinction you make. I never used the word, he called me and asked me if I wanted to comment on the alleged break-in at City Hall. And I told him what I knew, that I was told by the facilities manager exactly what you said. It looked like the door had been jimmied open. Whether that's a break-in or not is what the police chief is looking at.
So then you did understand what had happened while you were in Florida?
I was called up by the reporter for the third time and asked if I would comment on this alleged break-in, if I knew about it and would I comment on it. And I said, I don't know anything about it. Let me call you back or call me back in 10 minutes. And I called in. I got Joe, and that's what I was told, and that's...
But you certainly framed it as if it had something to do with me.
Oh, I framed it as...
Yes,
I said exactly what I said.
You said they assured me that those files are under lock and key, the mayor said.
That's exactly right. The
So
city
you
attorney,
did
the
frame
city
it as if
manager,
it was...
the city manager and the city attorney
So I
put
just want to
those
be
files on
clear.
Fremont Street under lock and key before...
Yes, so
this
I
break-in.
just want to be clear that this is the way you framed the argument, and I want to know
There's no
as
argument.
soon as possible whether there was a break-in or an attempted break-in on that morning.
Well, there's no argument. You want to know if there was a break-in or not, and that's a fair and legitimate question. And when the police chief is done with his investigation, I'm sure he can say there was no break-in, there was a break-in, and we're still investigating who did it, or there was a break-in and it's an unsolved crime, or
And
whatever.
you could have
There
certainly
wasn't
said
a-
that.
And that's what I said. I
No,
said the
that
door-
wasn't what you said.
Why don't you reread it again out loud?
You
Well,
said-
I'll read it. You said the Democratic majority is circling the wagons, Catalina said. Anyone who does anything to bring up Councilwoman Claxton's misconduct is going to get fired. I'm not surprised. Joe's been a good employee for years. Quote. So come on.
And
you
notice the
wanna
chief
read
of
the
police
beginning of
just
that?
said he
Sure,
does
he
have
says,
some
Catalina
information
was in Florida,
for all
was unaware of
Catalina
the
knows.
suspension when reached by the Daily Voice, but
He
blamed the
could say-
Peekskill Democrats. The Democratic
But Catalina
majority
is
is circling
implying
the
that he's
wagons,
controlling
Catalina
what the
said.
police are gonna
Anyone who does anything to
talk
bring up
about.
Councilwoman Claxton's misconduct is going to get fired. I'm not surprised. Joe's been a good employee for years. So this is the kind of stuff that has just made this murky and ugly.
It
And we need to
it's
stop.
exactly right. It makes it
Yeah.
murky and ugly when
But
politics
it's
is
all you.
interjected. And no, there's no me in this.
You're every article.
Every single article.
Well, you know.
Every
Every single article.
I'd like to know one thing, though, that really has me confused is, and curious, not confused, curious. How did that picture of the door? Because all of a sudden, you know, first there was a break-in, there was jimmying involved, and the next thing you know, immediately, there was a picture of the door that was sent to the paper. Who can take credit for that?
Well, anybody can take a picture of the door. It's in the open hallway, isn't it? I was in Florida, but
So
it
maybe
wasn't me.
we-
But
they have
anybody can take a picture of a door, right?
All right, that's all I have to say.
You are such a slime ball.
I am very interested to know whether in fact there was a break-in on that day. And I am surprised that it should take 3 weeks,
I believe-
given that we have videotape in the hallways. 3 weeks to determine, and I don't care about any of the other things. I don't care about employees. I don't care about, any of the others. But this was framed to make it appear as if this break-in had something to do with an investigation against me. And I am interested to know whether in fact there was a break-in on that morning.
I think in that thing I said there was a heightened sensitivity in light of the allegations against you.
Is
and
that
this
what you would
could-
call it?
I think that's what I said. But,
That's not what you said.
well, you can obviously uncircle the wagon so we can close the door for executive session. But the bottom line is that, your situation brought a lot of this on to the city.
Just the fact that he says uncircle the wagon, that makes it clear that he's aware of the graphics on his blog.
Side of anything that happened with the preservation company and Drew Claxton.
That's right.
He was a
I
part
firmly
of
believe
designing it.
Well, until you take responsibility for it, this organization that does fine work is going to lose $313,000 now. We have to scramble to find
That's
another
your doing,
501.
Mayor.
It's not my doing.
It's not mine.
I didn't take the loan.
Well,
And
look,
if it was,
switching away
why don't you
from,
tell us about the,
This is a big
why don't you give us
diversion.
the details on the repayment? When is that gonna start? Or when is that gonna
but
be?
let's
Okay, now
sort
we're
of
diverting
Was the
completely.